Hello and welcome to the Delusional Boyfriend Book Club, where if falling in love with your ex-wife's little brother is wrong, I don't want to be right. My name's Courtney, and I'm joined today by Val, my reoccurring anime guest host. Hi, Val.
Hi, Courtney. Thanks for having me. Can I add, if dating someone who is age appropriate is wrong, then I don't want to be right?
Today we are talking about Junjou Romantica, and if you're a BL anime fan, you've probably seen this. If you're an OG fujoshi, you probably watched this 10 years ago. I am doing I did a rewatch for this. I had watched it before, and I think that it was like my second BL anime after Yuri on Ice, because I just Googled it and it's like the first one to pop up because it's such a quote unquote classic. And I remember being shocked. So let's go through some of the trigger warnings of this before we dive in. But you can find Junjou Romantica on Crunchyroll. There's 3 seasons and an OVA, and we are just covering the first season, the first 12 episodes, which includes 3 couples. So they smash a lot in there very quickly. So our trigger warnings are going to be dubcon, non-con, emotional manipulation, miscommunication, and age gap. And I say miscommunication and age gap in the tropes as well, but they did trigger me. So if those trigger you, definitely check it out. The dubcon is through all 12 episodes. You never aren't getting dubcon. So just brace yourself. Our tropes are going to be age gap for all 3 couples. So we've got multiple couples here. All of them are kind of starting out in a love triangle situation, unrequited love situation. There is miscommunication in every single couple throughout the entire first season. I would call it slightly a dark romance because of the emotional manipulation going on here, and slightly like a red flag top situation. We've got college campus, professor student, BL inception, which is one of my favorite tropes when we have a BL author or a BL fan in the story. And we have that here, which is really fun for me. Our main character's love interest also writes BL. So we get to talk about being a fujoshi and about reading BL while we're also watching it, which is fun. And then we've got power imbalance. And I think that's kind of covering all of the tropes. Val, can you think of any others?
I think that's it. Was that enough? It was like a whole minute's worth of
Yeah.
trigger warnings and tropes.
Yeah. Yes. So this really, I mean, kudos to the author for smashing in every BL stereotype you can into one story. And I found myself in the first watch being very shook and also enjoying it because it's so wild. And then this rewatch, I had the exact same feelings where I was just like, oh my God, this is crazy. I feel like I'm having a fever dream. There is weird, especially in light of like the Epstein files and everything. I cannot watch this without being like, why is there so much childish and infantilized imagery? There's like just teddy bears and rubber duckies, and it is so packed in there. Again, it's very fever dreamy where you're just like, who red lighted this to be published? And also, why am I still watching on episode 12 and ready for a second season?
Yes, and how did this get published? I was like this is my first watch through. I had never seen this before, so full disclosure, this was I went in blind to this like I always do. I trust Courtney, that's my fault. This is still an ongoing series. There is currently 30 volumes in Japanese, 28 volumes in English, and it is ongoing. It is still like, so not only was it greenlit, it is so successful that it is still going.
I want to do a really quick character introduction, and I had fun doing a little smasher pass the other day. So rapid fire smasher pass. We're going to go through these characters. Our main character is Misaki. He's 18 years old. He's just graduated high school and he's taking his college entrance exam. It's like summer vacation before college starts, and he needs a tutor. So that's where we're at with Misaki. He is very young, baby-faced, tiny body. Every weird childish trope goes into this art and this character.
He seemed he seemed more youth-like than an actual 18-year-old. Like, he was giving like, oh, I'm actually like 15 or 16 energy, and the way that he carried himself and behaved and stuff. So pass for me.
Pass for me too. And then his love interest is his brother's best friend, which is Akihiko. And Akihiko is 28 years old. He is a BL author and a genius in his own right. He's won a lot of awards for writing non-BL books as well. And he ends up tutoring Misaki as a favor to his best friend, which is his older brother. He has gray hair, which I hate the whole time. I love a Gojo character with white hair. This gray hair, I was like, why does he look 100 years old? Why? And he has the yaoi shoulders. He has the big yaoi hands.
Yeah.
Usami sleeps with teddy bears, or I guess Akihiko Usami is his name, and different people call him by either his first or last name. But Akihiko sleeps in a room full of teddy bears, and he has a very weird perception of the world because he was raised so rich. He is constantly like kind of, I don't know, romanticizing poor people in a way. And so his obsession with toys is an obsession with like reclaiming a childhood he didn't really get. And maybe that's also why he is so interested in such a youthful character. Akihiko, smash or pass?
Pass.
Oh, and I would love to say pass, and like deep down I'm like, oh, I would smash, especially because he's like, I don't know, Val, he's an author, and I hate that I love him. I hate that I love him, and I just have to keep it at that. Okay, our second couple is going to be I can't.
You're telling me that if you walked into like a successful author's bedroom and saw a bunch of like teddy bears and like kids' toys and stuff, that you wouldn't leave?
I am telling you, I don't know. I would probably have to have a few drinks. I would probably have to have a few drinks in me. But the thing is I am like such a sucker for an obsessive, like dark character, and he gets his claws into his love interest, and he like controls everything about him. And in real life,
because he's an adult and the other one's a child.
I know. And also it does remind me, I don't know, when I was 18, you should have seen these men that I was trying to, they were all so old, Val.
Yeah, no.
I had a problem. And so I would love to say pass, but that would be me like morally pandering, and I can't because I would smash him, okay, with his stupid square chin and his weird yaoi hands and shoulders. I'm so sorry. His tiny snatched waist. Their waists are also small.
He also can't cook. He can't take care of himself. Sorry, keep going. We got to move on to the next couple.
He has nothing. He has nothing going for him. No. And why do I still want to smash? Kamijo, which was a student at the same time that Akihiko was a student, so they were classmates together in college.
They were
all going back to their childhood friends.
Yeah.
This is another situation of unrequited, unconfessed love. And when they get to college, Kamijo does hook up with Akihiko, and it kind of tarnishes their friendship in a little way. They're still friends, but it's definitely like this traumatic event. So he is 25 years old when we meet him and his love interest, who is 21 years old. So his character is a professor at a university, or at this point when we meet him and the other couple, it flashes back and forth between like present day and his days as like a graduate student. So he is getting he's doing his graduate thesis when he is going through this heartbreak, and he meets his love interest. But this character is like a literature student. He is very, I don't know. He is kind of normal. I would say he's the most normally proportioned. And I found him to be the cutest character overall. This couple is my favorite couple overall. How did you feel about him?
Yeah, no, these two were the least problematic. They were the cutest couple. Mm-hmm. They had me screaming at the TV for different reasons.
Miscommunication reasons that pissed me off, but not age gap reasons.
Right. So, yeah, no, I liked this couple.
Kamijo, I would definitely smash. I love the way that he had sex with Akihiko and was just like, you can call me by his name, it won't bother me, and then has a full mental breakdown afterwards, and he's like, that was a really bad idea, I shouldn't have done that, this unrequited love is gonna crush me. I like that he's a crybaby. I think he's handsome. I like him a lot, so I would definitely smash on him.
I've been with a crybaby before, and it's not for me.
It's not for you. I'm like, I would smash. And then we've got Nawaki. Yeah, I hope I'm saying that right. Is his love interest, and he was an orphan. So when we've got our Kamijo crying to himself on a bench, Nawaki shoots a rocket bottle over by him, and that's their introduction. And he fell in love at first sight. He's got darker hair. He's 4 years younger. He needs to get his high school diploma because he had to skip out on school in order to start working because he was an orphan. So I liked this character's backstory a lot. He seemed like he had the most complex backstory, and he's the kindest. He's so kind to people around him that he started like an old man beer group where they're all sitting around eating chips and cheersing.
Precious.
He's so precious. Smash, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, hands down.
Smash.
This is
like hands down.
Zero hesitation. Smash.
Naoki, I get mad at later in the series, and then I find out that the real miscommunication is on his partner's side, and I was like, you were mad at him for no reason, Courtney. And I felt so bad for ever being mad at him because he's a sweet baby angel and he never does anything wrong, and he's perfect, and he's like he's very forward about his feelings and very forward sexually. I like everything about him. And this age gap was so non-confronting. Like a 21 and a 25-year-old we can all get away with that.
Acceptable.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Your peers, you would have been basically.
You guys can like go grab a drink together.
Miyagi, who is an associate professor with Kamijo, they work in the same office together, and Miyagi is constantly sexually harassing Kamijo. He's also the worst chain smoker. We've got a couple bad chain smokers, but this guy's never not smoking a cigarette. He basically is a newly divorced man who works in this office with our other character, Kamijo. He flirts with him kind of like in a silly way. Kamijo, I think why it's not like a real sexual harassment problem is every time Kamijo says, I'm going to report you for harassing me, he stops about it and they move on. And so it seems like it's not that serious, and like they definitely respect each other's boundaries. And at one point, Miyagi even says like, oh, it's so much easier to communicate with Kamijo because we're both adults and I know how to communicate healthy with him, and I can't do that with my partner. So as far as Miyagi goes, smash or pass?
He's a pass. Just the smoking thing, he would like literally light up, take 2 puffs, and then put it out. Plus, like, I didn't like that, like, in his first marriage, she was like, he just married to her, like, and she was like, you didn't even like me.
So I would actually pass on this one too, even though for the most part, like a 35-year-old dark-haired love interest who smokes cigarettes all day, on paper, that's my man.
Right.
His life is just kind of a mess. He even says when we first meet him, he's like, I'm the pathetic divorcee, I know. And I'm like, ew, that is not it for me. Sorry. His love interest is going to be his ex-wife's little brother, is a high schooler still. In school in Australia, finishing up his senior year. It also says that he's 18. And I just want to remind everybody that like 18 is an adult in America, but 19 is an adult in Japan. So they're making quite a distinction here, even with Misaki, like them both being 18 years old in our Western world, that might be the legal age of an adult. They are both minors in Japan. And so that is mega problematic. And it seems like a really intentional choice by the author to not just make them of legal adult age. His name is Shinobu. And Shinobu, it says, again, he's 18 years old. He doesn't look 18. He's a high school student. And he goes to his sister's ex-husband and says, I thought it was destiny that you guys got divorced because I've always been in love with you. I'm in love with you now, and you have to take responsibility for making me fall in love with you. So that is our love interest there. Definite pass for me.
Definite
He's
pass.
literal like child. I'm not interested.
Little baby.
Those are our main characters. We start out with the first one, and each one gets pretty equal screen time, I feel. I think that Akihiko and Misaki
gets the least amount.
They do get the least amount. And Misaki and Akihiko come back a lot. They're definitely the main couple. But I would say we're around like, I don't know, 4 main episodes for each of them, except for that main couple keeps coming back. Like open up meeting Misaki, and he's in a high school uniform with his test results in hand, basically understanding that he's not gonna be able to get into college without some tutoring. He lives with his older brother, and his brother says, I have a tutor for you. And that's kind of where we launch into this series. Val, go ahead, take us from your initial thoughts when you first turned this on.
Very early on in this episode, immediately commented on between the tutor guy who ends up being the main love interest, the older guy, and the younger guy, Misaki. We already talked about the age gap. And then we find out, because we haven't talked about this yet either, Akihiko is in love with Misaki's older brother.
Yep, and Misaki walks into the house and sees a BL and opens it, and it's it's Akihiko and his older brother Takahiro all in this BL. So he runs to confront him in his bedroom, and that's when the Kabedon happens, and then
Right.
immediately a non-con scene. Like within
Yes.
5 minutes of starting the show, we have non-con.
We basically get to the older brother's apartment, and he's like, "Hey everyone, this is my fiance." So Akihiko, when he finds out that the older brother has a fiance, he like goes out into the street and starts crying. But like, reminder that he just non-conned the love of his life's little brother like the day before or something.
Yep, and just to like, I don't know if you didn't watch this, he jerks him off while the guy is like, no, don't do it.
Yeah.
And he's crying. He obviously knows that he is the problem and he is the drama, but he has the nerve to go out and cry on this little brother's shoulder. And the little brother is like, I actually feel bad for you because you love my brother so much. And my brother just kind of never recognized that and threw it in your face. And you are trying to be happy for him. And now I understand your emotional depth and I'll let you cry on my shoulder. And immediately this 28-year-old man is like using this 18-year-old for comfort, which I hate. I hate when grown ass men ask women or children for help finding their dog or to comfort them or help with directions. I'm like, predator. You're a grown ass man. You do not need this person to comfort you and pat you on the back. You don't need his help helping you like find a dog or whatever. Like that's always like someone trying to get you in their van. That's a pedo. So immediately I was like, oh, I don't like that.
After the dude's crying, I was like, oh, what? And now the little bro wants to be this dude's special someone, whatever. Oh, now they live together at lesbian speed. Great. So that was episode 1 for me.
Immediately living together, the brother's like, I've got a job in Osaka. I hope you're happy with my crazy ass friend. Is that this brother knows his friend is like clingy and crazy. The younger brother has seen Akihiko when they were like when these two were in their younger days. He's seen Akihiko like full on, like kind of physically making moves on his older brother. And his older brother's like, it's not what it looks like. He always does this. He's just like that. So the older brother also kind of consciously leaves him with a guy who he knows is a massive pervert and who he knows has like these weird obsessions and hangups. And part of that is like all of these childish toys. I don't know that I would have left my little sisters, who are only a year and a half younger than me. I don't think I would have left them with Akihiko. I would have been like, oh, I would have left myself with
episode 2. They've been living together for a month now. Okay, so old man got jealous and then was like, ever since you saw me cry, I knew you were the one, and then gave him a blowjob. And those are my notes.
Yep, that's basically it. And again, old man, like I really wish this character's hair wasn't gray. It seems crazy. And there is this side character who's at college, and these are my toxic notes for episode 2. This is when we see Akihiko is continually driving Misaki to his classes, and all of his classmates are judging him and being like, "Why do you have this famous guy in this red car dropping you off every day?" And that's where that manipulation of his entire life and the control over his entire life begins. Right. Is that he has changed the trajectory of how his classmates and teachers think of him. And now when he finally makes his first friend and his first friend tells him like, we're all judging you because you keep showing up with that guy in that race car. Yeah. And he's like, oh my God, at least I've made a friend. Will you be my friend? And he's like, yeah, of course I will. I think his name's Sumi. Go out and Akihiko is waiting there to pick him up. And he says, I'm actually going to go out to eat with my friend. And his friend is like, yeah, we're going on a date. And he does this to kind of like annoy Akihiko, and Akihiko gets annoyed and he grabs him physically, shoves him in the car. When they get home, his friend is trying to call him to ask if they can go do something. And he hangs up on the friend. And the younger character, Misaki, goes, you talked to my brother all day on the phone. Why am I not allowed to talk to my friends?
Ooh, get him.
Big power imbalance. And continuously we have this power imbalance where like one is absolutely allowed to live his life and keep the hours he wants to keep, and the other one is living at his house for free. So he kind of has this indentured servitude to the other character where he has to be there for every single meal. They promise to eat every meal together, and that only has exceptions for the older character. The younger character may not break that promise. So every social interaction is controlled by this older man, which again, regardless of age, if a love interest of yours is controlling all aspects of your life, you're in an abusive relationship. So this is very clearly abusive from the get-go. So what are your next notes after that little episode?
Okay, so after that episode, we're going to episode 3. It was only 2 episodes and I was already so over the first couple. So then my
Yes.
next note is, oh my god, a tragic dark-haired orphan, I'm in.
I'm in. Yes. And we love Naoki so much. Like that character is kind of perfect. He never does anything wrong this whole series. The only thing that he does that's like a little questionable is take a man who is obviously admitted he's in love with somebody else and then say, I think you can learn to love me back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, I think you can learn to give up that man and love me back. And I'm like, oh my God, have a little respect for yourself, baby. Like, if someone needs to learn to love you and doesn't love you right off the bat, if you fell in love at first sight and they have to learn to love you, oof, duh, that hurts me. That does. It
Yeah,
makes
I
me a
love
little bit
it.
sad. But regardless, he kind of pulls out of a depression. Kamijo is kind of reawakened to the joys of life because Naoki steps into it, and Naoki asks tutoring him so he can repass his high school diploma and then get into college so that he can go into the humanities. Is the first kind of like white lie he says, because he's like, oh, you'd be the perfect tutor for me. But he does admit later on he's doing all of this just to spend time with the man who he fell in love with at first sight. When he saw his tear-soaked face, he loves a crybaby. Naoki is like, I love him. He kabadons all the time. Not only do they kabadon, they do it with like the knee thing where they're always like putting their knee up in the other one's crotch and spreading their legs. And I'm just like, okay, get it.
We're like learning about Kamijo's history. Wait, the pedophile had a crush on his now boyfriend's older brother, and meanwhile, his other childhood best friend was down equally bad, and he knew? Let's be honest, if I was the one who let him bone me while pretending I was someone else, I for sure would have been petty and told our other friend that we were gay
Yes.
and that I was with him to make him push that other guy away. I don't know, maybe I'm petty and they're not, but they're not the kings of good decisions either, so whatever. Like,
no, the love triangling is, if you hate a love triangle, do not fucking watch this, because it is just continuous unrequited love in one direction or another. Nobody is happy until they're finally with their child brides, and then they're happy. But it is terrible to watch, because I personally was just like, oh my God, why can't Kamijo and Akihiko just be together? And it's
I
never
was
going to work.
literally,
I know,
especially
like
because
in
we
real life,
find out later that Kamijo's like been in love with Akihiko since they were like 6.
yep. But I also have I have so many hot girlfriends, and a lot of our childhood, we all kind of grew up together, and a lot of our childhood guy friends, like if you ask them like brass tacks, are you in love with X, Y, or Z? They'd be like, oh, since I was 12, I've been in love with them. And it's like, well, yeah, I still wouldn't tell any of those girls to date you, because like they know you, they've known you since childhood. If they were gonna like you, they would have liked you by now.
The
But still
difference
in the
is
series, I was like,
that somewhere during college, Akihiko was like, "Yeah, I'll bone you, Kamijo," and Kamijo's like, "Okay, but you can pretend that it's the guy that you actually like," and they were like, "Okay."
yeah, you're right. He should have, Kamijo should have been like, oh, by the way, Takehiko,
That's what
Usami,
I
or
mean.
Akihiko was in love with you this whole time, and
I would have
just
getting
blowing
ass
that
bitch
shit up.
about it.
But that's the thing, is like when we do eventually get a flashback to these two childhood friends before they hooked up in college. They were besties when they were like really, really young. And it does seem like something happened. There's some background to Akihiko's childhood that we don't quite get in this first series, which makes Kamijo very sympathetic to him. And he is protecting him all of the time, trying to like emotionally regulate him so he would never blow up his life. He truly does love him more than Akihiko loves him back. Like it's such a one-sided relationship. He is such a good friend to him, even in this moment where his heart is completely broken. He never even considers telling Akihiko's secret to anybody. Like he just moves it along and holds that pain in. And thank God Naoki like shows up, because I was like, oh, this man is on the ledge. Like,
no, for real.
He had nothing to live for while he's crying on that bench.
No. So then I guess all still episode 3. Kamihiko and Nawahiki and the dark-haired orphan, they actually they start to he's like, all right, fine, I'll let you in, right? Then at the end of the episode, I'm like, wait. So after they bonded, he left the country for 6 years?
To me. And then in the next episode, when it clarifies, it says he's only been gone 1 year.
I
So I'm like, I
know.
think this is what I think it was. They were together for 5 years in this kind of on and off relationship, and then he leaves for 1 year. But the time jump in the anime is completely garbled. Like they did a very bad job at this. And every time we switch time periods, I was a little bit confused initially. And thank God this is my second watch because it did clear up a lot of things for me. But these two basically have sex, and then it flashes forward 5 years in the future or 6 years in the future. And the younger character, Noaki, has been gone for a year without saying anything. And that's this miscommunication trope that most people will fucking smash their heads off a brick wall about. Because why? Why do we have such bad communication? If they've been hanging out and going on dates to this family restaurant for 5 years while Kami Joe finishes up his graduate thesis, finishes up his his college years and his associate professor, whatever, initial professor job he got. While he's doing all of that, they're just meeting up at this family restaurant. They're not living together. They aren't communicating much at all. And Noaki, we're to assume, is finishing up his high school diploma that he never got and then going into college. So of course they'd both be very busy, but they do this whole time skip the moment after they have sex. So we see them have sex, and then we see a time jump 6 years later, and we don't see any of that in between, which made it really fucking confusing. Like, if you just fell in love with a guy at first sight and just had sex with him, why would you go MIA? And when I finally pieced it together, I was like, okay, it's not how it happened. That's just how the anime fucked it up, because it very understand that this younger character has needed to get to America to do this like residency, and everyone else knew he was going, and he just up and left his boyfriend. And they say they're boyfriends. They say they haven't broken up. So I'm like, who in the world doesn't have their boyfriend drop them off? There's excuses for all of this, but in the end, it's what I would say is like kind of a poorly done miscommunication trope.
Yeah, I agree. And it's weird because, like, also when the anime is going through, I think episode 3 is where, like, we find out that he, like, leaves. Episode 4, I think, hops back to the main couple, and then episode 5 jumps back to the second couple. So that was also
Which definitely
weird.
Makes me, yeah, and it makes me think that the manga, of course, there's so many volumes in it, definitely had to have been going about this at a different pacing, because the pacing and the flashing back and forth is incredibly confusing. I don't think anyone can argue that. I'm sure people back watching this when it first came out were like, what the fuck? What are we doing? Where are we going with this?
Yeah. So in my notes, I've got, after I was like, okay, I said, wait. They boned and then he left the country. I missed a Kabedan counter somewhere. And it's like, whatever, episode 4. And I was like, moving on, whatever. I'm so over this shit. God, okay.
Yep.
Okay, I said, the kid is still reading the dude's BL and mad about it being about him now instead of his brother.
Which, I mean, take some progress.
Okay, yeah. This, because before you were like, oh, I'm just a replacement to my brother, and then he literally replaces the brother in the manga, and now he's mad that now he's in the manga instead of his brother.
Yep. And also at the very end, in like the last episode, he gives him all the books to read as like material. But those are all his BL books, which means that he would be reading about his older brother, because only like the last one was about him, and only the recent ones would have been about Misaki. All the ones before were to understand.
Gross.
Yes. No. So he would be like giving him reference material with his brother's name in it, and he's even using their real first names. He's not even changing the name. It would have been impossible for me to read. My brother's name is Shane. It would be impossible for me to read a BL with a character named Shane in it. Sorry, not reading it. Just not reading it. I'm not reading it. Or even in a real Shane Hollander from Heated Rivalry, I had to just like keep calling him Hollander. I was like, it's Hollander. He doesn't have a first name. So that would have been incredibly uncomfortable, I fear.
Oh, that's so funny. I made the comment about switching out the brother. And then when the writer guy pins him down, he's still playing the whole, wait, where do you think you're touching game? Mind you, they've been living together for months. They've been boning for months. And he's like, oh no, you're touching me.
And this is like one of those BL tropes that I say, like, I think if you watch this, you'll really know if you want to take it or leave it. And this is one where I'm just like, leave it. I'm so sick of characters who have now at this point, like, entered into a consensual relationship just yelling no the whole time. And I did like one word he used to describe it, and it was way late in the season, but he's like, my self-consciousness is getting the better of me. I'm going to be the one to initiate this time. And I was like, that's what it is. It's this bodily self-consciousness where you're constantly being like, no, don't touch me. Even on the 15th interaction, can we just like admit that we like to be jorked off and that like this is consensual? Because you saying no every time is making it so uncomfortable for me as the watcher and the reader. And you are adamant you don't want to leave this situation. You're adamant that you're happy in this situation and that you love this person.
Right.
Even after you've admitted you love him, you're saying no and making every scene dubcon when it doesn't have to be dubcon. Yes, and I don't know, as somebody who also reads like Western romance novels, it's so much more gratifying to hear a character be like, oh yes, or
like, even
that is the
no
sound
at first, and
themselves.
then being like, oh wait, I do like this, like,
yes,
the change, like have it clock. All right, episode 5. My first note is this storyline should have been the lead storyline because we're back to the second couple.
Yep.
Okay, and then I said, okay, if someone didn't talk to me for a year, because this is where we talked about where it ended him saying 6 years, but then it comes back and it's like, oh, just kidding, it was only a year that passed. I said, okay, if someone didn't talk to me for a year, I would legit assume that they had passed away, that they died, that they had left this earth.
Yes, and I would burn all of their shit, even if they were dead. I would burn it all. I would be so mad. I would never. I mean,
like literally anyone. Like not even okay. Like a partner, obviously, no, they're dead. They're dead to me, regardless of whether or not they're actually dead. But like literally, if I didn't talk to someone for a year, I'd be like, oh, they're gone. Like if I was,
they're gone.
If I was at the point where I'm like talking to someone every day, and then they leave the country, and then I no longer hear from them, they are gone. It's nice knowing you.
Out of the picture. And this is like, it's so wild because he just gets a postcard after a year and it says, meet me at the airport. And then one of my favorite scenes, he meets him at the airport and kicks him in the face. And I was just like, yeah, appropriate reaction, actually.
Yeah, no, literally. Okay, so then I was like, the souvenir is in a paper bag. I would have thrown it at him.
I would have broke it. I would have burned it. I would have lit him on fire. I'm so sorry. I would have committed arson.
And then all caps, it was made in Japan. The souvenir was made in Japan.
He goes, don't go about re-importing stuff. I'm like, re-importing? He bought that at the fucking airport.
I also thought that he bought it at the airport. I also thought that.
Yes. Oh my God. And that's like another piece of imagery that just feels so weird and childish to me is this like weird panda. And in the intro song and the outro song, we have these weird pandas and these weird teddy bears and these weird duckies. And I'm just like, okay, all these full-grown men and their toys are starting to get on my nerve. And I say that as someone who has just like all these plushies in the background. So like, okay, I'm a hypocrite, but
it's different.
I'm a hypocrite and that's on me, but still it's just a lot of toys, to be honest.
That one none of them cuddles with a full-size teddy bear every single night, but I digress.
Oh my God. And he also makes jokes about how he does that with it. And I'm just like, this is gone over the line 1,000 times. It's actually never not gone. Every time a line was approached, it's like, I'm popping it.
Yeah.
Gone. Okay. So we get
every line is like a starting line for them. They're just like going.
So this is where we begin. So we've got this character coming back from a year like residency at a medical school in America. And he is trying to just like pick back up where things left off with this other guy who hasn't heard from him at all and who is furious. He's like, everyone else knew you were leaving. You never told me. And at this point, until I learned that it was
no spoilers, because I want to go through my feelings as I'm experiencing, because this is my first watch through, right? So, because I think most of my notes are on episode 5, which was this, like, the dude came back, like, and we're experiencing this. And again, like, I've already established this is my favorite couple. Like, these are, like, this was my ride or die couple. And then he pulls this shit on us where he leaves and doesn't tell us that he's going nowhere and then doesn't talk to us. So, after it was made in Japan, you confirmed, right? He was the only one that didn't know that the dude was leaving.
Yep.
And then he just says, I'm going home. Okay, bye.
Yeah, like, he's like, if you ever, because they do hook up, they weren't going to, and then they do hook up, and then he says, this is the last time, it's never happening again. And next time you leave, at least leave me a memo, at least write me a note. Wakes up in the morning with a note that says, going, That's it. And you know what's weird to me is that this character, when we first met him in the park, he was so upfront and so good at communicating. And
Yeah.
even the love interest, Kamajo, was like, you're too direct. You're too direct. You say whatever is on your mind. And now, flash forward, whatever's happened between them, he's started to not be direct at all. So
I know.
I'm
That's what I mean. Like,
that
I think that's
confused
what
me.
pissed me off too, where I'm like, okay, now this is a different character.
Yes, because this character used to be very upfront with his feelings and say too much. And maybe that is what happened, is that Kami Joe said, like, you're too direct. And he took that to mean, oh, I better just bottle it all up and never say anything. So yeah, very weird 180 here for me.
Okay, we had a +1 on the Kabedan count. And then I was like, wow, little bitch gave in so fast. Like, it took nothing for him to be won over again.
He hasn't had sex in a year, Val. He's horny.
Again, if whoever I was seeing left for a year and I didn't hear from them, I'm not waiting around. I'm not waiting around. Okay, so then the excuse for the abandoner was, there were a lot of things I needed to learn in a short amount of time.
And that is a wild excuse.
You don't have 2 minutes the phone.
Even initially just being like, I'm going to be gone for a year and I promise I'll come back to you. You don't need to wait for me if you don't want to, but I can't call you in that year because I'm going to have to focus. Like, he doesn't even give him any kind of, preparation for this abandonment.
Also, it's like, okay, I don't want to jump ahead, but we find out later that he was writing notes and then just not sending them. And bitch ass, if you have the time to write a whole goddamn note, you could have picked up the fucking phone.
Absolutely. You could have just picked up the phone and said, like, I miss you. I'm alive. And
Literally.
I'm dealing with school. We do find out he was getting 2 years done and within 1 year. So that makes that line of I had a lot to learn make more sense.
But again, like, because you're writing the letters. You're writing the letters. Those take time. You are wrapping them up. You're putting them in envelopes. You are stamping them with postage. You are taking them to the depository where you put the letters to be mailed out, and you couldn't pick up the phone. You were too busy studying.
That's crazy. And then he's like, well, I just knew if I had any contact with you, I'd want to come home. It's like, you didn't once think, if I have no contact with him, he won't be there when I get back. Because that's the logical fucking thing to think here.
Right.
Buddy.
Okay. So after that scene of the I'm going, what the fuck is that? We then flash to the professor in the office venting to his coworker. And then, sorry, I read ahead of my notes, but I just had it to sit here. How is this professor having a full conversation with a cigarette in his mouth, no hands? I don't understand the cigarette physics that are happening, because it's not even in the side of his mouth. It's in the middle of his mouth, and he's opening his mouth and talking and venting, and it's just staying there, and there's nothing holding it, and I don't know, and this happens constantly, and it kept pissing me off, unrelated to the whole storyline.
You smoke like that at 35, if you've been always smoking like that, you're going to be wrinkled and haggard and stank. And that's from a cigarette smoker who just recently quit. So also, I'm just like, you should have drawn some wrinkles on this man. He's looking too young for somebody who smokes 3 packs a day. I'll say that much.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Okay. So then I said a 4-year age gap, too appropriate, to be honest.
Honest to God.
For this anime, too appropriate. Okay. So then I said, okay, and the letter to the abandoner just said, I'm breaking up with you, and that's it. And then I said, slay bitch. So then at this point, the guy's like, you know what? Fuck this guy. He left me, whatever. I'm going to write him a letter. He couldn't write me a letter. I'm going to write him a letter. And he writes a letter. It just says, I'm breaking up with Isley. Slay. Okay?
Slay. The funny thing about this couple is that he's like, we're not broken up. He left me for a year, but he never broke up with me, so he's still my boyfriend. And I'm like, that is petty in a way that I love, where he's just like, oh no, technically, if we're going to be technical, you are my boyfriend and I broke up with you first. You might have left for a year, but you never said the words. So I said the words first. I'm the breaker-upper. I broke up with you, bitch.
Okay, yes, I'm going to take that pettiness and I'm going to turn it up, because not only that, but then he moved, he changed his address, and then he changed his number. Okay?
We love a man who's going to stand on business, and this is 10 toes down. Very proud of Kamijo in this moment. Get it, girl.
Lose my number? Oh, actually, I'll lose it for you. Bye.
Oh my God. And then while this is happening, he's trying to confide in his coworker, who is Miyagi. Yeah. And Miyagi continuously kind of takes these moments of vulnerability to hit on him. And he's also just I'm not gay. And it's well, why do you think you're flirting with your coworker so fucking much? What is all that about? And then poor Kamijo is just trying to confide in one person about this gay breakup of his and he can barely spit it out. He's just like a wreck at the office.
Yeah.
And oh my God, but he's trying so hard to like stand up for himself and like
He
do what
is.
he thinks is right. He's breaking his own heart.
Yeah. And mind you, and he's got to be going through it, because you got to imagine he just had this like 20-year unrequited love of his childhood best friend. Then, like, from what we understand, right, it's like really the first person he's been interested in, like, coerces him into this relationship that he was unsure about to begin with. He accepts it, and then the minute he accepts it, it's over and he's gone, and it's no contact for a year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
This guy needs
crazy. He's
therapy.
definitely
They all
going
need
through it.
therapy, but he needs therapy.
Oh, for sure. All these babies need therapy. They actually all need to be in like a group setting together, just talking about their inappropriate inclinations and blindness to red flags. But I digress.
Yeah. Okay. Also, during this episode, there was a flashback of Kamijo and his now ex-boyfriend. And he was finishing up a work thing while the other guy was telling him a story. And I was like, and in this moment, I put, I think Kamijo is gaslighting himself into thinking it was his fault that the other guy left him without warning for a year. And I know we get the defense later, but in reality, someone and they're finishing up something on their computer, I'm not going to keep talking while they're working. I'm going to wait till they're done and close their laptop, and then I'm going to tell them the important thing that I need them to listen to.
Yes, and I also think that Kamijo is always on his laptop and never not on it. And Kamijo is like responding back. He does say at one point in his recollection, he was like, hold on a minute, I have to finish this paper. But then we get the other characters kind of flashback and he's like, you were verbally responding to everything I was saying. And as a person with ADHD, conversation and not in that conversation. So you'll be like, Courtney, you told me we were meeting at this time on this date to record. And I'll be like, Val, I have no recollection of anything I've ever said my entire life. And it's funny when Kamijo has this realization where he's just like, what happened is that he says, if you won't give me your number, I'll meet you at the restaurant tomorrow at 7. This is like such an important scene. And he says, I'll be there at 7. Like, I'll wait as long as it takes. Kamijo goes to the restaurant and in the soaking rain waits for 2 hours while Noaki is picking up a professor at the airport. And he knows the whole time that he shouldn't be doing this, that he's going to be late for this date. And still, we get flashbacks where Noaki was telling Kamijo, you should focus on your work, make it a priority. But Kamijo never does that for Noaki. He never says, make your work a priority. He doesn't have that same kind of support for him. And in this moment, Noaki is like at the airport thinking to himself.
In Kamijo's defense about like you need to focus on your work, he didn't even know that he was changing from humanities to med. Like he didn't know.
Yeah. Well, because he's not asking any questions. I'm like mad at Kamijo at this point. I've realized what Kamijo is doing, and maybe it's because like I'm the pot and he's the kettle, but I was just like, oh, fuck. You don't know anything about your lover because you're not asking. You're not invested and you're not paying attention. And he knows everything about you and you don't know anything about him. And I don't even know if it's for lack of him telling you. It's just lack of you listening. And so we have this date night where Kamijo is like, I'm going to show up. And if I get any feeling that this is not right, I'll leave. Yeah. He stays for 2 hours in the fucking pouring rain.
And he's just sitting there. He's just sitting there in the rain, no umbrella, just like letting himself like soak in the rain. People are walking by, it's dark, and he's just sitting there getting rained on.
It's so sad and pathetic. And I'm just like, oh, buddy, like any real restaurant owner would have asked you to leave because you can't just like sit outside this whole time and loiter.
You're scaring the patrons, like
exactly. And so he leaves and they don't see each other, but right as he's leaving, his boyfriend is showing up.
Okay, they pass each other, but they don't like they happen to not notice each other. Yeah, I don't believe that.
That was crazy to me. I don't believe that at all. I'm like, this has to be like a Japanese street where like it's way wider and you're on way different sides of the street because the proximity here is unbelievable that you wouldn't make eyes. Or like, you know what I kept thinking in this story? It would be so much better if this was an Omega verse. The alpha could just like sniff out the Omega and like see when he's upset or in trouble, and it would make all the horniness make a lot of sense. But anyways, sincerely, I feel like I could have smelt Wolf's perfume, his cologne, with that kind of proximity walking past each other. Yeah. So he goes back to his office, and that's where his coworker is at, Miyagi. And Miyagi's like, let me towel you off, let me dry you down. And he's like, you must be soaked through to your underwear. And this is where he first like really does come on to his coworker, and he's in a pathetic moment, and our love interest barges in at that moment and stops them from kissing, slams Miyagi up against a wall. He's like, touch him, I'll kill you. It's very intense. This drama here was very fun. And again, all of these people are like of normal ages, so nothing felt like over the line. And
Right.
he basically pulls him away from that coworker, and he's like, you're fucking coming with me. We are settling this. I'm so sorry I missed the date. I fucked up, but I'm not doing this. I'm not losing you to another man. And he's like, okay, that was never even on the table. I don't like this guy.
I have a follow-up question. So after he told Kamijo, like, hey, meet me, I'll wait 10 years if it takes it, right? We also see that he does call the office, and Kamijo's not there, because he kind of calls them to be like, hey, I might be late, I've got this thing going on. And Miyagi answers. We don't know what's said between them, but we can kind of guess that he was like, hey, can you pass this message along to Kamijo? And he doesn't.
Yeah, you definitely get the idea that Nowaki was like, here's my cell phone number, have him call me back. I might be late. I have to go do this thing.
Yeah.
Have him call me. Like, tell him that something's come up. It's really important, whatever. So he tried, and Miyagi made my shit list. This might have been the moment where I was like, I don't care who he ends up with. I fucking hate him for trying to get in the way of this reuniting.
And definitely not because he actually likes Kamijo. Like, this is where we talk about how Miyagi is like two different people. Like, he was written, it's like someone wrote him as a character, and then they were like, ooh, actually I have to write these other chapters, can you write them for me? And then someone else wrote them, because he feels like so like different, like inconsistent. Yeah
Very inconsistent, for sure. So they get pulled away off into their own spectrum to deal with their shit. Miyagi, personally, I don't think ever really did like Kamijo. He was just maybe feeling this like bi panic, where he was like, I'm seeing this guy who I obviously think is cute, and now he's all wet and crying, and like, I don't know why men have this fucking instinct to prey on people who are going through it, but that's what he does in this moment. So definitely problematic for Miyagi.
Yep. So then, we leave that, and then it's like, okay, they made up because he just wanted to be a big independent man for his man, and then we had the love confession, which is cute. Then we got a flashback where he's talking about studying abroad and was like, yeah, see, I told you. But even in the flashback, he's just like, I don't know if I should, he's like, I don't know if I should study abroad, or he's basically like, he's telling him, but he's like, hey, I've been thinking about maybe doing this, but I'm not sure. And Kamijo is supportive in the moment. He goes, I think that would be a good thing to do. And that's it. At no point during that conversation, which is Kurosama's like, oh, see, I told you moment, did Kurosama actually say to Kamijo, hey, I'm going to do this? He asked for advice. He got advice. He didn't definitively say he was going to do something in that moment either, though. So again, I don't know if this was on the manga, because we already have talked about how sketchy the anime like piece of it is with like timelines and everything else. But it's just kind of like, okay, if this is all I'm getting, I still don't have confirmation that Kurosama actually told Kamijo that he was doing this.
Yeah, no, definitely Noaki like mentions it in this moment, and I think he expected Kamijo to be like, no, I would miss you too much, don't go. And he's just like, no, that sounds good, it's fine, you do whatever you want. And I think Noaki also says like, wouldn't you be lonely? And he's like, no, it'll be fine. And so in my head, I'm like, okay, maybe Noaki really doesn't think that this guy will care if he leaves, because he's just kind of being indifferent to him all of the time. But still, he needed to say, I am leaving on this date, and I'll be back on this date. Will you see me off to the airport? I would love to say goodbye to you.
Airport is like if I'm not going to see my partner for a year, I'm at least going to have them take me to the airport.
They have to take you to the airport.
He asked him to pick him up at the airport. He couldn't take him to the airport.
And this is another thing where in that flashback where we see them at the restaurant, it gives us a little context that they would meet, I think, once a week at this restaurant and go on this dinner date alley together and kiss, and then get on their separate trains. And so I'm like, okay, you're really going to the same school as each other, and you're only seeing each other like once a week. When also, I'm sure you guys are banging. When are you even getting that in? Because it seems like they had such sparse communication in 5 years. And if I was with someone for 5 years, seeing them like once a week and having this little communication while they work on their laptop, that would be like, that relationship's already dead. I'm so sorry.
I feel like a lot of closure in that, and we're like, all right, you both did some wrongs. It's fine now. Back to being my favorite couple. Not that they ever stopped.
each other
Yeah.
after this point, which is like very cute because they're like, okay, we can be done messing around. Let's live together
Yeah.
and spend all of our time together.
Right.
And that's when you, I don't know if it's this episode or another one, but that's when you see that Nowaki was like writing him a love letter every time he thought about them all. And he's like, this could last me till I was 150 years old, just reading all these love letters. And he even says, this is so embarrassing you'd even write any of this down. And he's like, well, give them back to me so I can throw them away. And he's like, nope, I'm going to read these all. This makes up for it. This makes up for a year of absence with all of these love letters. And I did turn to my husband and be like, and why haven't you written me a love letter?
Where are my letters? Where are
my letters?
Where are they?
So I was like, okay, he's like, Kamajo definitely forgave him. I forgive him. It's fine. We can go. Yeah. We can move on.
All is healed. All is better. Episode 7. I don't remember the full title of this one. I had in mind something spoiled the child, and I got already annoyed before the episode even started.
Spare the rod, spoil the child. And I was like, cut it. Cut the cameras. We're done. We do not need to use the word child. What is happening? Ugh.
Literally. Okay, so the episode starts. I have the pedo is pouting because his live-in boyfriend won't make him octopus-shaped hot dogs.
So infantilized. He is like insanely childish and so strange.
And I feel for him in the way that like he clearly didn't have a childhood, but at the same time, like it is weird the level at which he behaves. But anyway, then I have in my notes the publisher lady is there with Akihiko doing her publisher thing, and she's pretending like she didn't like walk in on them doing it because she says something like she's sitting down, she's talking to them. And she says something like, "Oh, it's almost like you two are lovers," with her like fujoshi eyes. And I'm like, didn't you walk
they're lovers.
in on
you saw them banging.
I was like, what do you mean it's like you watched them bone on accident? You walked in, whatever.
Several people have walked in on them at this point, and I'm like, this poor baby, like this goddamn Misaki has no privacy, no boundaries. Everybody just knows everything about him. He has a book written about him. Does
he even have his own bedroom in this house? Do we even see it? Do we only see
Phil's broth on Akihiko's bear, and he says, I'm not mad at you, you'll just have to take the place of the bear and sleep with me every night. So they start sleeping together then. And he goes through a checklist in his mind in this episode when he goes, we're not lovers. And he's like, well, what makes a lover? It's somebody you live with, who you say I love you to, who you have sex with, and he's like, check. You sleep. You do say it.
I got this. Okay, so I said, okay, the fujoshi eyes like, oh, it's like you guys are lovers. That was the tipping point for the baby, where he was like, wait. I said that was the baby's tipping point to question if the guy he was living with, cooking and cleaning for and sleeping with was his boyfriend grow up. And then I'm like, oh wait, he actually goes through the list. So the list was live together, check. Eat together, check. Goes on dates, check. Kiss, check. Sex, check. Sleep together, check. And then he like confronts the old guy about it, and the old guy was like, what do you mean we are dating?
He's like, obviously we're dating. What else would we need to do to be
and then he's and then off the same list, and he goes, we do all of these things. Of course we're dating. That's what people are dating do. What do you think those people do?
And he's like, well, they're nice to each other and they go on dates. And he's like, oh, I'll take you on a date if that's what you want. And I was like, Jesus Christ, you're 28 years old and you didn't think that the like who you are like coercing into sexual situations all the time deserves to go to dinner. I'm glad. Like, thank God we got here at like episode 7 or 8 or whatever. You're finally going to take this man on a date. And then you made like a TikTok about their beach date. And I was just like, oof, why does he act like such a child?
He is. So rough. Okay, so then this is my next paragraph. It's the same thing. I said, okay, this guy is literally so young and unexperienced. He's trying to think of what he should do to prepare for the date. And he's comparing it to going on a school field trip.
Okay. I feel like it's crazy that none of these younger characters have ever had a single romantic interaction. Like, he's never had a girlfriend. He's never had a boyfriend. He's never held hands with somebody. Like, this is his first date of all time at 18 years old. And I'm sorry, I went on my first date when I was like 13. Maybe that's crazy, but like, held his hand and kissed him. Like,
and I don't know if that's something, and maybe that's why all of these characters are written in such a way that they have so much trauma that it's easy to believe that they hadn't like wanted to or felt like they could care a point.
And going through all this other weird family shit. So maybe that's why they never made like romantics a priority. Sure, that would make sense to me.
That's what I mean. Like, they make it easy to not like actually question it. So to your point, like, yeah, we're looking at it like, hey, why haven't they even like been interested in someone? But it's like, That's pretty believable. So they are
I
out
guess.
on a real date for once. And they're at dinner first. Or maybe they go to the beach. I don't know. The beach thing was weird, but then they're at dinner, and I have, why is there a guy there, like another guy that Akihiko knows? He just finished telling Misaki that he'd gotten them a private room for their dinner because he knew that Misaki was going to feel weird about it. So what's this
And then
other
this
dude
guy
doing there?
barges in. Yeah, he like sees them through this private room and takes it upon himself to barge in. And I will say, I thought this guy was really hot, but has a bad personality, like
Yeah.
super bummer personality,
Mhm.
sucks really bad,
Yeah.
and clearly has some weird unresolved feelings about Akihiko and some competitiveness with this 18-year-old he's just met for the first time, where he keeps trying to rub it into the 18-year-old's face how inexperienced he must be and how young he must be,
And
which at least someone pointed it out.
true. But what gets to Misaki is that this guy's also rubbing in his face that Akihiko and this other dude like know stuff about each other, and he's like, "Wait, I don't know anything about Akihiko. Like, he doesn't know about his child, his family, his friends. He knows like nothing about this dude that he's been living with." And then that's what puts him in his feels.
And to your point, Akihiko does know everything about Misaki because he like knew he was his older brother's best friend. So like he's been there to see like that their
He's
parents
seen him
died.
grow
That
up. He knows everything.
Yep, and he's like, yeah, as soon as you turned 18, you needed me as a tutor. So I've been there. I've seen everything that there is to see. You have nothing to even tell me.
Right.
And then I have like made up this fictitious world with you where I'm putting you through in all these other scenarios. And to this guy who like shows up at the restaurant, what he's saying is like, oh, you wouldn't know any of this about Akihiko because you weren't even born yet. You weren't even born yet. And it's just like, I'm sorry, but I am also that petty bitch who would be like, hey, honey, do you realize how much younger you are? Because this is nuts. This is literally nuts. And then he's like, he sleeps in a room with teddy bears. And he's like, yeah, I fucking know. And I don't think that's weird. And I was just like, okay, stand up for your man. You're so
okay. That was not as hard as you thought it was, but pop off, I guess. Whatever.
I guess pop off. He's like, I don't think it's that weird. And
I don't think
like,
it's weird that my man sleeps with teddy bears. Grow up.
And again, I'm just like 18-year-old coming to the defense of a 28-year-old is like cringy. I think he can like scare off this childhood friend of his on his own. And he does eventually get rid of him. And then that guy comes back and we can see that he's like the director of the manga company that he publishes under. And so, or the novel company, whichever one it is. And so he is constantly in the story. And I think going in, I looked up the like main characters from the next seasons. And I think it's called Junjou Sentiment and Junjou Mistake. And that's where we're getting these side characters who work at the publishing house. And we are getting, I was like, I hope Isaka has like a romantic partner because I don't know, I liked his vibe. He's like mean and bad. And I just wanted to see who his romantic partner is. And I think it might be like his assistant. He's handsome.
That's so funny. Okay, back to my notes. I said, then I've got, Love Confession on the Ferris Wheel by the Old Man. So there was that. Then I have they teleport home and then have a fade to black night.
So Misaki, this is when he finally confesses all of his feelings. He's like, you on this Ferris wheel and he's watching Akihiko and he's like, Akihiko just looked at me and he, didn't try to touch me and his voice was so warm. And then we find out later that it's because he was imagining what he was going to write in his next BL about how they fucked on the Ferris wheel. And I was like, honestly, Akihiko's so problematic and I think he's so funny. Like sitting there and staring at this boy who's like confessing his love and just imagining all these like raunchy things he's going to write about. I was just like, oh God, that's hilarious. And then he also tells Misaki, he's like, by the way, that lady who works at the publishing house who you're jealous of, she's the one constantly making me write all this raunchy shit about you. Like she's even worse than I am. And I'm like, yeah, everyone in this story is worse than the next. Yeah. You're all perverts. And I usually love to see that. And in this one, it is so difficult for me to like root for you because this person who you guys are all constantly sexualizing is 18. He's just like, let him live.
Also, call back to the publisher lady being like, oh, it's like you guys are lovers almost. Knowing, again, she not only did she walk in on them, but she reads this dude. She knows that it's written up. From her perspective, she has no reason not to think that the stuff that's written in these books is what is actually going on between them.
And then to like bring him chocolates and stuff to be like, ooh, I hope your hope you're feeling all right. I know what you went through last night. Oh my God, it's rough. She's definitely enabling all of this toxic behavior. And Misaki is like, oh, she's my friend. She's on my side. And Akihiko's like, no, she ain't. She's nobody's friend. She's just here to make money on BL. And I love also the moment where Akihiko is like, you can't be mad at me for writing a BL with you in it. I'm just mixing my professional life and my fantasies with my like real romantic experiences with you. Can't even be mad at me. And then Misaki's just like, I don't know how to argue with that. You're so cocky and arrogant. I don't even know how to argue with you. And I'm like, yeah, he's so cocky and arrogant that I would have just been like, you're right.
And again, like he's so like young and stupid that he's like, oh yeah, I guess that's true. Like, because he doesn't know any better. So
yeah, he doesn't know any better to be like, oh, this is a massive, and well, he says it. He's like, this is sexual harassment. This is an invasion of privacy. And then he just backtracks on everything he said. He's got no spine, which how could you in your first relationship? We all were stupid, but Jesus Christ. So we have also in this date, like this funny, I don't know, this funny moment where the people that he works with are like, you're going to have to come to a party because you were like throwing a party for your last book that you wrote. And Misaki is like, I don't read his books. Like if I read too many like lines of dialogue, I'll shut a book. Like I'm not a reader.
That's the last episode.
Like, I'm like, you guys aren't even intellectual equals. Like he's not even, of course you wouldn't be at 18 and 28, but this character is not even interested in reading. And all you do is read and write. Like you guys are so different from each other.
Yep. And the end of episode 7, Misaki finds a book with a bunch of restaurants paper marked on them with the implication that Akihiko had looked through it at restaurants in advance for them, which absolutely swooned Misaki. He was like, oh my God, that's so romantic. And in my mind, I'm like, that is the bare minimum that if you're like going to take someone out on a date that you look up restaurants to take them to.
And mind you, he only has to look it up because he's never taken anyone to a restaurant because he spent the years pining over your older brother who he never told he was in love with.
Right.
So, yeah, he would have already known what restaurant to take you to had he ever been on a date himself, but he has like emotionally stunted himself with this unrequited love to your brother. And we're always just forget, which is not so to me, but it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, so that happens, and I feel like now they're finally at like a sweet spot where they've acknowledged feelings, blah, blah, blah. Then the next episode starts, and it's a call from the older brother being like, oh, you know what? I probably shouldn't have left my little brother with you. Can you send him back to me?
Little late for that, honey. And he doesn't want to, like, I don't know, be mean to his best friend. So he's like, whatever you say, I'll send him back. Like, are you sure that that's what he wants? And he gets some backstory now on Misaki and how he was 8 years old when their parents died. His older brother, Takahiro, like really wants to give him family life. And he
wants to give him a warm family.
And it's really like say that to Akihiko, who he knows never had a family. And he's just like, you obviously can't provide that or be his family or his found family or whatever, because you don't know what that's like. And Akihiko's just like, oh yeah, you're right. I wouldn't know what it's like to be in a family to you. And I was like, oh my God, your older brother's a dick. I don't like him.
He's not,
it was brutal.
He's not a dick. He's just like, and this is, I think it's in character for him because he's not brutal. He's just oblivious. Like oblivious. How the pining went on for so long. That's how him living with him and it being whatever went on for so long. And that's how he's able to say those things to him because it's not to be mean. He's just oblivious. And he's not like making those like mental connections, which is crazy because he otherwise seems like a smart dude? Question mark? I don't know.
Yeah.
He like went to, well, Misaki picked the major that he did because he wanted to do what his brother wasn't able to do because of care of him.
Yeah, right. And so maybe just like, oh, that is really mean to say to Akihiko, who is like literally put up your brother for free. Okay, he also did victimize him the entire time. I'll give him that. But he has been putting him up, and you could maybe give him the benefit of the doubt that he is providing this like.
Has your brother complained to you?
No, he hasn't. And he is happy. And like he has chosen to be here. And he gets really upset that Akihiko lets him go. He's like, well, you never let anyone else capitalize on my time. And you're just going to send me right back to, I have become so comfortable here just for you to send me away. And I felt like that. I liked that realization on Misaki's part. This situation, I didn't plan for the situation to go as far as it did, but now that I'm here, I choose to be here and I'm 18 and you can't just send me away. Like, what about all of this what about our routines and our life that we built together? Like, does that not mean anything?
Well, before he even gets to that, he has this moment where, like, when he finds out, he like goes, he's like, well, maybe I've been inconveniencing Akihiko. Maybe he's felt inconvenienced by having me here. And then I put, says the guy who, when told he had to leave, said, yay, I don't have to cook dinner for you anymore, while he's actively doing the guy's laundry.
Yeah. He wants to be a trad wife. Misaki wants to be a trad wife. He just doesn't know that that's what he wants.
Honestly. He doesn't want to have to read. He doesn't want to have to, like, he just wants to be able to cook, clean, and, like,
yes,
be there physically for her needs physically.
And maybe this is like going too deep with it, but I think a lot of BL sometimes gives us permission to let the character who's like on the receiving of a sexual situation be some of these stereotypical things that we like to see women be anymore in novels. Like if I see a woman in a novel being like, I don't like to read, I don't like to write, I don't like to have a job, I just like to cook and clean and I will have sex anytime you want me to have sex. Like if I see a woman doing that, it pisses me off. So a lot of times I do think women are like, well, if we want to explore those tropes or those dynamics or those like we can't do it anymore with women because it's like it personally offends us. So we have to just put that role onto like a very hyper feminized man. And then it makes it okay again. And I'm like, it's a complicated psychological reasoning, but I think that is definitely what we see happen a lot. And I see it happening here where it's like, if this was a female character, I would have already told her she has to get out and go prioritize everything about her own life before this man. And in this story, for some reason or another, I'm a little bit more just like,
We'll get, I don't want to get too deep, but I think you're onto it because honestly, if there weren't such an age gap, if they were like the same age, I would not care about their dynamic whatsoever. And it goes back to that, we like to see men in these roles instead of women because there's no inherent power dynamic between two men being in a relationship. So then if one is choosing to be the one that cooks and cleans, regardless of if they're the bottom or the top, that is their conscious decision because that truly is what they want to do and not what they feel they have to do because of the patriarchy. And so, and in this dynamic, again, if they were the same age, I would have no issues. But because he's the younger one who's now like taking care of this older guy who like clearly forced him to get into this position that they're in, that's what rubs me the wrong way about it.
For like, did you really want this for your life, or is this the first opportunity you were ever given, and so you don't think you have any other options or roads to go down in life?
Right.
And with Misaki's backstory about how he never tried to inconvenience anyone and he always tried not to be a burden because he was afraid that he was the reason his parents got in this traffic accident, I'm like, okay, so maybe inherently he is a kind of person who's like, let me take care of everything around us as far as like the household goes and the homemaking goes, because I'm trying to make something that I never had as a child, which is this warm, happy home. And I would believe that again a little bit more if he wasn't freshly 18 and kind of forced into this position of servitude immediately, where he is not just like a romantic partner, he is a live-in servant to Akihiko.
That's so I think you hit a fair point again, which was that like I don't know necessarily that the homemaking that he's doing revolves so much around as much like, so someone who grew up in like a whatever broken house, like when you have one person who's taking care of you and you are witnessing how hard things are for them to manage raising you, you do everything in your power, even as a child, to not be a burden and make things as easy as you can for that other person. So his like homemade, it's like a comfort for him where he's like, oh, this like cooking and cleaning, like I'm not only not being a burden, but this person's taking care of me. So like it's symbiotic almost. It's like, and so like I see it from like the trauma response
with the guilt.
Yeah,
for sure. He's like coping with the guilt of whatever he has gone through in his past by like trying to overcorrect and do more for other people. He really needs to, and it's complicated.
We'll talk about it in therapy one day, maybe.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so then we flash to he's having dinner. Misaki's having dinner with his brother and his brother's wife. And they're eating dinner like a family, and he's like feels like, oh, is this what family is like? Oh, I guess it was nice to not have to cook dinner. Like, hey, what do you want to do? And he responds, the way that he responds and the way that he talks sometimes is like so weird. I don't understand what's happening. He goes, I want to see the crab, the crab that moves. Do we know what that is?
That walks. Like, I think that's all that is. Maybe it's a tourist destination of like a
I was thinking maybe like, because like sometimes they have like the crabs on the sides of buildings. And I was
Yeah,
like, oh, maybe
something
it's
like
maybe it's like
that.
one of those big crabs that's on the outside of a restaurant that like moves around like that. But then the brother and the wife make another like yes and comment that didn't line up with that. So I was just really confused. I was like, but also of all things, you want to see a robotic crab.
See, and that's why I didn't think, I was like, it must not be robotic. It must be him asking, because he went to the beach. So they live in Tokyo, him and Akihiko, and they go to the beach for a moment. And we don't even see them at the beach. But they mention on their date night they're going to the beach. And then
Yeah.
he goes to Osaka, which is like a beachside town, and he's like, okay, well, I would like to go see the crab that moves. So I was like, okay, is that just because you never go to the beach? And later on we also have Akihiko saying he wants to get a moss ball, and I'm like, okay, maybe these two just don't go outside at all and have never seen this moss ball or this a real life crab.
They just
It
never
was
touch
strange
grass. I
though.
don't know. That's what I mean. Like I feel like
Ever.
there's
Yeah.
I haven't looked up yet like what volumes of manga align with this, but I feel like we miss a lot in the anime.
We're I think for sure we're jumping around.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're doing a lot of jumping around. So his brother then says, "Oh, I hope you're doing okay with Akihiko. He can be really sentimental and clingy and weird." Like,
oh wait, before
why
that
are we?
happens, I have a note. It says
Uh-huh.
that Misaki calls his brother's wife ma'am. And the bro didn't say anything. He wasn't like, don't be so formal and, whatever. And that felt really odd to me because I felt like the brother's whole shtick about this was like, oh, we're going to be a family. And so the fact that he called her ma'am and everyone was just like, yeah. And maybe it's a translation thing. I don't know. But like, I feel like by this point, you're not calling your sister-in-law / wannabe now mom or something ma'am. That feels odd. Even, especially like as an 18-year-old.
And I'm like, did he even go to their wedding? Like, why does this seem so? Yeah, it's very impersonal between, and he's like, oh, my wife's at home, she cooked dinner. So I'm like, is this your first time ever meeting her? This whole thing where you're just like, I don't know, saying that you want to create a happy life for him after you've just abandoned him with your best friend, who you're even admitting now might be a difficult person to live with. I just don't get it. And maybe just had to center himself in his own life for once, and once his brother turned 18, but it just feels problematic.
Yeah.
And then he kind of like badmouths his best friend, who has never badmouthed him once in his entire fucking relationship with him. He says this thing where he's like, yeah, he can be difficult to be around, I hope you're doing okay. And he's like, he's not, even though in his head he's like, oh, he's a bad man, he is difficult to be around. He's like, he doesn't deserve to have you, the person he treasures most in the world, saying that about him. That sucks. And I was happy with Misaki in that moment because I was like, I'm glad you noticed that. I hated that too.
I have a note about exactly what he said in the moment, because even though he was defending him, the way that he did it was odd to me. He said, I've never had an unpleasant experience with him.
Which is what somebody who's being abused constantly would say to their family members if they were checking in. They'd be like, everything's 100% fine. And
nothing's wrong.
Yeah, nothing unpleasant. And then he like literally is like, I need to excuse myself. Sorry for raising my voice. And goes to the convenience store, and he's thinking in his head, actually, I've had nothing but unpleasant experiences with him. And I'm like, honey, you're so out of touch with your own thoughts and emotions and feelings. And I get that you're just like brainless walking through this world, like getting a degree just to make your brother happy or whatever. You have no real wants or needs. But holy shit, like you've had a lot of unpleasant moments. Let's just be real.
But what you said is exactly what I had in my notes, which was like, if I'm defending someone and trying to explain how good of a person they are, I'm definitely explaining it that way, where nothing unpleasant has ever occurred when we interact. So formal and weird and very convincing.
And weird and vague.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So then there's like, I don't have my notes in it, but I remember there's like a phone call between Misaki and Akihiko. And Akihiko ends up like being like, Misaki's like, oh, I've got all these frozen foods. And, he's like, oh, I'll be selfish for once. And I'll, ask if I can stay with him. And Akihiko's basically like trying to honor what he promised to his best friend, which was that, Misaki would stay there, blah, blah, blah. And then Misaki kind of takes it as that he's not wanted. And Akihiko can sense that over the phone. And he's like, you know what?
And it's
wait there.
It's interesting because when we have these moments where this character, and also Miyagi is the other one who it does this with, they say, I'm going to say what I'm feeling and I'm going to be blunt about it. And then it goes, in the anime, it goes to a translation screen where you hear what they're saying and then the translation shows what they were trying to say.
Yeah.
And this was that moment where Misaki is like, I'm going to tell him what I want to say. And the translation screen comes up and the translation for what he's saying is, I want to stay with you. And what comes out of his mouth on the phone is, would it be okay if I left some clothes at your apartment?
Yeah.
Not to be weird, but would it be okay? And Akihiko is like, why would that? And then he says, oh, I was just joking. I was joking. And
obviously I'll
it's
take
this
all my
thing where
stuff
he
with
really,
me. Yeah.
and it's like he really cannot get out of his mouth how he's actually feeling. And he really doesn't want to be a burden. And it's, oh, it is, that moment's hard, except for Akihiko reacts the right way where he goes, don't even get on the train. I'll come to you. Stay where you are. I need to see you right now.
He says, wait. He's like, don't get on the train, just wait.
3 hours.
This man stands there for 3 hours with a known bag of frozen food.
This is insane.
I think the frozen food part pisses me off more than anything, because he listed out a lot of good food, okay? He had like frozen takoyaki, he had like all this good frozen shit. Dude's like, oh, you're having a bad time? You know what? You're already on your way to me, but don't bother. I'll meet you there. And then makes him stand there for 3 hours while holding a bag of groceries that are now all spoiled.
And then they almost all spoiled. And he also said, like, I have no money. Like, this kid has no money. What did he spend where'd he get this money for all this food that he just wasted?
Well, he did say,
yeah, and then
he said earlier that he had a part-time job. It was noted somewhere that he had like a part-time job that he was working. I don't know, whatever.
One that Akihiko approved of, because he tried to get a bartending job at night, and Akihiko was like, nope, can't do that. You can only have a morning or afternoon. And parentifying himself even while he's being a pervert. And anyway, it's just all very weird. But he gets on the train to him, and then they almost miss a connecting train, which is going somewhere. And our boy Misaki like asks no questions, gets on the sleeper train with this man.
I like the title. What kind of funny sex train are they on?
I love this. I'm like, I want to go get on a sleeper train and have sex on it, because the title of this episode was Travelers Have No Shame. And I was like, that shit's right. And also, I so badly like want to go tour the love motels in Japan, because I'm just like, yeah, it's so like shameless. And I love this idea that you can just like walk into this hotel with everyone knowing why you're there. And these two on the train, they're like, no one. And when they get to their destination, they're like, no one knows us here. We can hold hands. Like, travelers have no shame. We don't have to worry about anyone outing us or seeing us. And so I love that. But I was also just like, Misaki, do you not have any questions about what direction you're heading in? Have you not looked out the window and thought to yourself, I don't know where I'm going?
At one point, he's like, why did we book a sleeper train anyway? Or something like that. Like while they're doing it, or like, why did you pay for this? It had to have been inconvenient for you, blah, blah, something like that. And then they go back to doing it. And then he goes, I love when he whispers sweet things in my ear. And he says this right after what was said was, you know you love it. And I said, it's giving, was it good for you after getting jackhammered at a frat house?
For real. And he's like, the way he's whispering at me, like the most cringy sensation where I was like, oh, I can feel his hot breath, his hot, stinky breath on my face. I do not want it. I do not want it. I do not like it. And actually also, yeah, every time as you know you like it, it's right after doing something you know you hated.
But the fact that he heard, you know you love it, and then he thought to himself and then thought to us, I love it when he whispers sweet things in my ears.
It's like, that was not sweet. What the fuck was that?
This poor child does not even know what compassion or sweetness or like real affection is. It's just whatever Akihiko's thrown at him, he goes, this is romance.
Oh my God. I'm just got triggered when you said child again, because yes, he is like, technically he's 18, but there's a moment, and it might be towards the very end of the season, where he finds a photo of himself on his computer and he's like, why do you have a picture of me from my childhood? And I was just like, call the cops, call the cops, call the cops, call the cops, call the cops. Also, this man is going to dump you in 4 years when you're too old for him. Call the cops. I was so upset. But anyways, moving on. So he's taken this very young man to another city without even letting him know. He's basically
he kidnaps this child, who, by the way, when they get off, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but he's still holding that bag of frozen, well, not frozen anymore, takoyaki. He's still holding the bag. I'm like, whatever. They should have thrown it away by now. Then they go into like a shop to get like, I guess, a tourist book to figure out where to go and do stuff. And when they leave the tourist shop, the frozen food is no longer there. So the logistics on the frozen food is beyond me. And episode 9 is when Akihiko and Kamijo's flashback happens, where we go back to them being children, and Kamijo meets Akihiko, and he's like writing, he's like doing all this stuff. And at some point, Kamijo starts to have a panic about something. And Akihiko's trying to calm him down, and it's not working. So he walks up and he just smooches him. But then there's a scene where I have in my notes, not this child laying and smiling in the grass while reading a Japanese dictionary, like as though it were a comic book. He's just like laughing and giggling along, reading a goddamn dictionary, laying in the grass.
Like, in what fucking world? In what fucking world? But on another note, the moment where he's looking up the word tenderness and then tries to look up the word for like a kiss, and ends up looking up the word sex in a dictionary, I was like, canon event. All of us at one point in our childhood were like, no, I know I've heard this word. I'm going to look it up in a dictionary. And I was like, this is very funny that you did that. And then he like gets really close to the dictionary and is like in his room alone, trying to make sure no one's watching him look this up. But I loved that. I really did love that character. Kamijo's character is very believable to me, and he's closeted for such a long time, but he knew his feelings for his best friend from the time he was 10 years old were different than his feelings for other people. And I thought that was a beautiful representation of like how hard it would be to come to terms with that when no one around you is gay, no one around you is like allowed to be gay, and then this one person is openly affectionate to you, takes your first kiss, spends all this time with you, spends the night with you, and you want to protect them and be their friend and not ruin your friendship. And so that relationship, I felt so much for Kamijo. I was just like, oh, this breaks my heart.
Yeah. They were I think they were in school together, and then Kamijo was really struggling with the recorder. He's like, oh, my hands are just so small. And they have a moment where they like touch hands, and Akihiko's like, oh yeah, like your hands are so small. And I'm like, oh, everyone has the like hand touching thing. And then he's like, oh, here, let me try the recorder. Akihiko takes Kamijo's recorder and he does this, whatever thing. Kamijo's like, wait a minute, an indirect kiss? Like, it's no problem. They just smooched like 2 days ago, and he's worried about this indirect kiss. He's like having a panic about it, and he's like, don't you know what that is?
It's like, you had a direct kiss. We have bigger fish to fry, buddy. You've had a direct kiss, and then you never talked about it again.
Yeah.
What's with that?
I know. So anyway, I've got my notes like, okay, so that's how the teacher fell for the predator, but it feels like it would have been mutual, or at least he would have cared about the teacher enough that he wouldn't bone him unless he actually liked him, because it's clear that he's always been in love with him.
Yeah, it is like just another one of those things where, is this guy a genius, or is he like actually really stupid? Because I'm like, we're calling Akihiko a genius this whole time, and he's so stupid. He doesn't understand his own best friend is in love with him, who he kissed, who he has like always had this strange dynamic with, and then he does allow him to be in this sexual position where he is kind of humiliated and super vulnerable, and it's rough because I'm just like, yeah, Akihiko, you write romance novels and you can't tell that what you're doing is toxic and bad. Like, what the hell?
Right. So that episode, that's pretty much it for that one. It was just the childhood episode. And then we get to episode 10, which is our first look at this third couple. I'm like, okay, we're introducing a third couple. There's literally 3 episodes left. And again, the first fucking lines of this episode are, my younger ex-brother-in-law.
Who's in like a school vest uniform.
He's still in his like high school or middle school or whatever outfit. And, we find out that he saved him from a mugging and whatever. I guess that makes you blush. I guess getting saved from a mugging makes you blush and think that this man is now your destiny. Our standards are really too low. And we've got to be better.
They're in the ground.
We've got to be better.
But also, if somebody did save me from getting beat up, I would, even if they were really ugly, I'd be like, he was so handsome, he came to my rescue. So I a little bit get it. And then we do find out that is not, he keeps calling that destiny. And it's like, well, why would that be destiny? And we do learn that he thought it was destiny because he's seen this guy around a bunch before he saved him from the mugging. And then run to his wedding, and he's like, kid, do you know where this hotel is? And he's like, I'm actually on my way to that hotel. I thought he was lying. I thought he was just trying to stalk this man.
Yeah,
But
me
then they
too.
end up both going to the same like conference room, and it's the little brother's older sister and this guy who just saved him from a mugging. That's his fiance, and they're in the works of like this marriage
They're like, oh, you're late to sign your
conversation.
marriage or whatever.
And they're like, why are you two together? And this, at this point, this younger man is so pissed off. He's got to be like 14 or 15, like in the heights of his like hormonal pubescent brain. And he's just like, what the fuck, is my destiny ruined because I thought I was in love with this man at the library? Then he saves me from a fight. I think this is it. This is our meet cute. And now I find out he's my older sister's fiance. This is
He's
horrifying.
now my brother-in-law.
And he does like pretty quickly after this at some point move to Australia to like study abroad. And I'm like, I would too. I would be like, give me the fuck out of this matter.
I cannot live with this. This is where we find out that he is 35, and I'm like, oh, how old's the boy? And then, like you said, we find out later that he's like, he had to have been 15 when they met because they were 18 when he came from Australia. And then I have it right notes.
He's on his summer break.
Yes, he was on summer break. I will say at this point, I'm like, man, Miyagi has the worst fuck ass proportions out of any of these other yaoi wowie bodies. Like his are hands down the absolute worst. Like, hold on, I know that like the people who are watching like can't, but like look at this man's arms. They go to his fucking knees.
No, the waist is also just like, that is a 00 waist, and his shoulders are like a linebacker. It's the most Dorito chip body we have ever seen. It's nuts. And his legs are so long. Everything is so slender, man.
Also, his hand is in the fist, and it's the same size as his thigh. And then if we take his head and drag it down, it's roughly the same size as his waist, but his shoulders are at least 4 heads wide.
It's insane. And then every time one of these tops touches one of the bottom's heads, their hand is 5. It's like literally so much bigger than their head. And my husband is 6'4". I'm 5'7". We're like 10 inches height difference. His hand is not bigger than my whole ass head. It's very big. He has a very big hand in comparison to me.
It does not consume your entire, like, it's like twice the size. I have
the thing was like, we were talking about the yaoi proportions, and he was like, why is it like this? I'm like, I've told you before, Wolf, if he's got big hands, he's got big feet, and if he's got big feet, he's got a big dick. It's like all playing off this weird stereotype that people have about that, and then they've blown up these big hands to be so big. And it's like, I get what you're doing here, but at this point, just show us the big dick. We don't need the hands to be monstrous and hysterical to look at. That's crazy.
No. So little guy is like, oh, I'll make you some lunchies or whatever, and it's just like a bunch of burnt cabbage. And then they're like talking over this burnt cabbage dinner, and Miyagi says this thing, and he's like trying to talk to the little guy about being in Australia and like all this other stuff about like dating and like seeing women and like doing this thing, and he says foreign girls look really sexy for their age.
I thought that was the creepiest fucking line of the whole show. And we had so many creepy lines that I was like, what the hell are you talking about? And he is trying to, so basically his ex-father-in-law said, can my son stay with you? He's back from Australia. His sister is also staying with me with, you know, her boyfriend, and you guys just got divorced, so I don't want it to be awkward. Stay with you. And he's like, sure, Shinobu can stay with me. Then he's staying with him, and he's like, please also give him a talk about like his life and his education, and set him straight, make him serious. And so that's his weird ass fucking attempt at making him like he's like, why don't you try being straight before you try being gay? Because I feel like it's going to be a hard life for you. And young girls look really good for their age in Australia. And I was just like, you're a creep. You're such a fucking creep. And we do get a bit of his backstory that he had unrequited love for. So it's like, yeah, was he also groomed when he was in high school? Was he also in this inappropriate dynamic with a woman who should have never let close to him? So is that why his brain is also messed up?
So at this like also lunch after the weird creepy comment about foreign girls, the younger one says, I want you to take responsibility. And I'm like, and I already said this, but I'm like, for what? Like, are you pregnant? Like, what is he taking responsibility for in this instance? He saved you from a mugging and you fell for him, and now he has to take responsibility for that?
Yeah, you made yourself gay because you were always gay, and you're the one who has been chasing after this guy forever. He has nothing to take responsibility for. That's insane. That's literally crazy. And this guy is crazy, and that's why it's called Junjo Terrorist, because he's literally terrorizing his sister's ex-husband. And I would feel bad for his sister's ex-husband if he didn't go on to like accept those feelings because of his own kind of determination to be less lonely or to start giving love a chance. And he thinks, oh, now that that annoying kid's gone, I kind of miss his presence. Like, I cannot. I am 28 years old. So I'm like Akihiko's age. He's 7 years older than me. I was just hanging out with my husband's niece, and she kept having her little ass friends around. They're all 18. I could have punched them all in the face all day long. They were very
no,
annoying.
literally.
Very, very annoying. The girls, the boys, they were all very annoying. And I was like, I must have been this way at 18. And I don't remember myself being that annoying, but I must have been. So I'm just like, no, I wouldn't want that person to live with me permanently. That's crazy.
No.
That's crazy. And he absolutely like tries half-heartedly to get this kid to think of somebody else. He's like, have you ever even been with somebody before? How do you know you're gay? And he's like, oh yeah, I've been with people before. Lying.
Yeah.
Clearly lying.
Right.
And then he kind of moves on that and calls his bluff, thinking, oh, this will help. He jorks him off. Also, we know this kid
it's
is on
an OTP
vacation.
handy, to be clear. He jorks some OTP over the pants.
I haven't even heard OTPHJ in so long, but absolutely that's what he does. And it is nuts because he also like on summer break, but headed back to Australia. So I'm like, has he not graduated high school?
He hasn't.
Summer break in America.
Hasn't.
He hasn't because summer break. So he might be.
He's
18,
not even in college yet.
Still a high schooler.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not even like he's done with school because he still has to go back to Australia
and like
get his shit. He has to go back to Australia, and this like whole incident with them happens at the house. He was supposed to be staying with him for a couple more weeks, and then he disappears, and the ex-father-in-law calls and he's like, do you know what happened? Because he just suddenly wanted to up and go to Australia. Like, why is he going back so quickly? And change of heart happens, and I'm like, you mean you got what you want? You scared him away, and now you're, after traumatizing him, you're gonna go grab him and be like, I changed my mind, you psycho bitch.
Also, I didn't love that like there was the whole like terrorist language, and then he like picks him up back up at the airport and is like, oh, I'm gonna go pick up my terrorist from the airport. Like,
and you're like, when was this written? At least as an American,
I know,
we don't even utter those words near the parking lot of the airport, let alone inside it at the gate.
Right. So between episodes 10 and 11, because both of them focus on this couple, like we get the flashbacks of Miyagi's high school love, which was also an inappropriate relationship with his teacher. The ex-wife comes by Miyagi's place to like pick up something. So some context where like they have not been divorced for very long if she still accidentally left belongings over at his place, but she's already about to get remarried. But I mean, I guess she cheated on him anyway, so that makes sense that they were together beforehand. But
and there's a moment in the office where he's like, you're a pathetic divorcee, and he's like, there's like a little arrow to him, and it was like, got divorced last month. So I think it's not been any time at all, but he says, I always knew she had a lover and I never cared, and I always knew that we were like not in love. So he's not grieving this relationship at all, even though his ex-wife is sad about it. She's like, I wish you would have hated me. How indifferent you are to me is so upsetting, and hate, like that is, I'd rather you just be hateful. Because
she said, to be clear, I did love you. And he's like, oh, says the woman who cheated. And she goes, your indifference was worse. Right? Like, you never even liked me, sort of thing.
And the cheating proved how indifferent you were, because look, you're not even broken up.
Right.
And he's like considering fucking her little brother. And I'm like, yeah, you're good to go, girl. This is the only cheating I've ever approved of, is you cheating on Miyagi, because that guy sucked.
Yeah, honestly. So, and I guess it's all because he was scared to fall in love because his first love died when he was young. I won't say that when she was young, because we don't really know how old she was. We just know that she was his high school teacher. And it was known that they were together because this teacher's parents were like, hey, we appreciate you being there for our daughter. Like, it was some noble thing that he was doing, being with this teacher as the student. In my head, I'm like,
the best that we could hope for here is 17 and like 22, and that's still crazy, but like that's the smallest age gap we could consider. And she is a deathly illness, like she's so sick. And so I am also hoping that like nothing at all sexual happened, because she is in her own words, an invalid, which I am not sure if that's the politically correct way to say things anymore, but like, I'm gonna die. So I'm like, okay, hopefully this was just like, she says he's like, you learned to love me. She finally did reciprocate my love, but I'm like, was she just appreciative to have a friend take care of her as she took her last? I would, you're my forever person. But he is so hung up on this woman that he is like, I can never move on or love anyone again because it would be a betrayal to her memory. And her parents were like, don't live like that. That's psycho. Go out and live life for her, not in like this weird grief haze forever. She wouldn't have wanted that. And honestly, she would have lived her life if she could have. It probably wouldn't have been with you. So move on. Yeah, so move on. This is like just weird circumstances. This is not true love or whatever. It was your first love.
Right. So I've got all the notes about the homeroom teacher, and then he makes this comment where he's like, I don't want to prevent myself to be trapped in the past. I'm like, well, you're doing it, so grow up.
Yes.
Then
you're 35.
Yeah.
You've been doing it for 17 years.
So at some point, like, the kid tries to convince Miyagi to sleep with him by trying to do double reverse psychology, where Miyagi was trying to like get Frisky to scare him away, and then the young guy caught on to that and was like, oh, well, what if we just boned? Then maybe that'll really freak me out. And he goes, maybe I'll get creeped out by you and be able to give up on you. And then Miyagi responds and says, then seduce me.
Yeah, if you have so much experience, seduce me. And he can't. He's shaking like a leaf. And instead of Miyagi being like...
so much.
He's so nervous. This is clearly his first time. And instead of Miyagi being like, oh, this is a sign you don't want this, he goes on to do the over the pants hand job.
No. At this point, he picks him up and he throws him on the bed. The OTP handy was the first one. This is like the second iteration of him getting frisky with him.
Yep. You're totally right.
So he gets flustered, apologizes after one smooch, and then runs out the room.
Mm-hmm. And he's like half shirtless, shaking like a leaf. And then that's when he takes his shit and ends up like surprisingly going to the airport.
Yeah. And I said, just like a man wants something as soon as he can't have it. You're 35. Act like it. Grow up.
Grow up. As soon as he can't have this guy, he is in the car, just like, have I ruined everything? It's like, not only did you ruin everything, but you were so fucking toxic about it. You couldn't for a second. Your intentions were always good. Your behavior and your actions never aligned with that ever.
It's that it's that thing where he's like two people again, where his like thoughts and behaviors and his morals don't align with like what he's actually doing. And the only comical thing I'll say that happened during these two episodes was when Miyagi goes to work and he's like venting to Kamijo about his situation, where he's like, oh, I had someone younger confess to me. And Kamijo's like, oh shit, is this story about us? And he's like, what do you like? Basically, like, he thinks he's being outed, but in reality, like, the story's just aligned but reverse and different. And so that was the only funny thing, was watching Kamijo freak out about it.
That was so funny.
Best part of the two episodes.
He's like, if you have something to say about me and my relationship, like, I know you know who I'm dating. If you're trying to talk bad about me, and he's like, no, it's just a coincidence. I'm literally going through the exact same
This is just a hypothetical. Like, it's a hypothetical. Like, it's not me. It's not you either.
What if whatever. He's like, hypothetically, what if it was a man? And he's like, all right, shit, I know this is about me. And it's like, honey,
he's like winding up.
You're projecting, baby. You're outing yourself. Just like, go back. Asking for real advice.
Right.
That part was cute. And it was cute that like these two sharing their office together are now going to be able to like gossip and kiki about their boyfriends and all of the weird shit and miscommunication that they're having. That's adorable. I like that they're friends for each other.
Yeah.
But so just constantly this whole thing can be summed up in two tropes: age gap, miscommunication.
Okay, so yeah, he rushes to the airport, and in the airport calls him a terrorist, and then whatever, they leave. That's fine. I have episode 12.
But it's so infantilized.
Yeah.
The way he's holding his sweater and crying he gets walked out of the airport.
Everyone's watching that.
Just like, okay, so this is your child. Like, this is your child. You're 35. He's 18. You're getting your child back from the air. Your child tried to run away from you. And I'm like, everything about this imagery of him like holding onto your sweater and crying behind you is so,
because he's sobbing the whole time too.
So gross. And I'm like, are you sobbing because you're upset that you made this choice for your life, or because you're so happy that this guy came back for you? Or are you like, oh fuck, I'm stuck now?
Undetermined.
Look what I've done.
Undetermined. That's the end of episode 11. And then we got episode 12. My first note is fucking finally, because this was agonizing for me. And I think I told you, and I don't know that I mentioned at the beginning, it took me, I had leg surgery. I was bedridden for 2 weeks. And in that time where I had literally nothing better to do, I still could not get myself to power through this. It took me until 2.5 weeks, essentially, to watch this. I was like, okay, maybe if I watch an episode a day, I couldn't even like rally myself up to watch a whole episode. I would like watch half an episode and then be like, I gotta come back to this. And I was pausing a lot to take notes, as you know, I had a lot of feelings about this one, but I'm just like, okay, finally made it to episode 12.
I'm on my second watch and I was ready at the end of this episode to watch season 2, and I was like, you have to stop. And not, I think it's great, but just because something about it is like, it's like a fever dream. And I was literally like, so I was in bed watching it all episodes. I binged it all the way through. And I was like, no, this does feel like a fever dream that I'm just like lucidly walking through being like, I don't know. I'm entertained.
It's like
I'm definitely entertained.
It's like how I justify watching gross ass reality TV where I'm like, oh, this is just a train wreck and I can't look away from it. And it makes me feel better about my own life.
That's what it was. Nail on the head. It was a train wreck I couldn't look away from. And I think that's what I like about a lot of like toxic love stories is that like my own love story is very like harmonious and like for the most part drama free. So when there's a train wreck I can watch, or even when one of my friends is dating somebody and I know it's a bad one, I'm just like, tell me the gossip, tell me the gossip.
What's
and
the
this was
tea?
a whole 12 episodes of tea where you're just like, he did what? He was how old? He did. It's just, he was married to who? It's like a train I could not look away from. You totally hit it.
Mm-hmm. The only notes I have for episode 12, and I know we're at like the 2-hour mark here, is it was the last line. And it was so funny because my husband doesn't watch BL with me, but he was in the room because he knew that I had to finish this right before we got on to record. And so he did not see much of this other than the few times he walked in and I had to explain the age gap, whatever. And he was just kind of like, nope. And then he'd walk away. Was the very last line of this fucking episode. Because he's like, oh, I want to do something for my boyfriend. And so I like, he said that his fantasies were written into the manga. And so I went to the manga and I saw that like he had written me initiating. I wanted to initiate. So then the guy's like, oh, why are you being so forward? He goes, oh, I read your manga and you had me initiating. You said it was your fantasies. So I'm trying to help you get to your fantasies as a little reward for you. And then he says, okay, so I'm going to go back because I recorded the line on my, it's like, no, I have to get this right. So then Akihiko goes, I'll teach it to you again properly from the beginning. And Misaki's like, that's okay. Never mind. I take back everything I just said. And then Akihiko goes, I won't let you. And then Misaki goes, whoa, hey, quit joking around, you jerk. He scoops him up under his arm, drags him in the room. He's like, let go. I said, let go. He's screaming. It's all the no noises that you talked about early on. Yeah. And as he's screaming, no, carrying on and whatever, his thoughts, which are captioned to go, ... took us to the twin bed that's much too small for the two of us and messed me up all night long, fade to black.
Oh my God. Oh my God. And then, so then in the morning, he like wakes up to all these BLs like leading out to the room, to the other room. And Akihiko is sitting there and he's like, well, these are all the books I've ever written. These are all my fantasies. So get to studying. And he's like,
we're going to get through every one of them.
There's this weird callback where he's like, I think I've dug my own grave. And we've like gone over this phrase of digging your own grave earlier. And I was just like, Jesus Christ. And then the Misaki is like, okay, well, I better read these because if I don't read them, I know he's going to get at me. And if I keep myself busy, at least reading these, then I can stay away from this man for a minute. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, he's got nowhere to go.
And meanwhile, he's like, this is romance. This is my boyfriend. Like, I don't know. So yeah, to your point, also, again, like that lead up of all of the manga that he read, I'm wondering when it clocks to Misaki that it's like, oh, some of these are in the tense of my brother being the fantasy and not me. And then, yeah, the childhood, the last episode, I was just like, wow.
It was rough. And then that's maybe why I was like, I need to go on to season 2. Tell me this gets better. I think that's half of the reason.
Okay, I can see that. I can see that. Like, all right, all the toxic stuff is out of the way, question mark. They're all 18 for sure now. Like, the relationship's been established. How bad could it be now? It can't get worse than this, right?
And we definitely that like, and we get Misaki's like 19th birthday, so we're moving into adulthood, which is nice, but it's just like, damn, nope. Every time I thought it was going to get better, it got worse. Like there was no reason for him to have a childhood photo, and it's not like inappropriate or anything. It's just creepy. It's like my husband has not a single photo of me as a child. I don't even have any displayed around the house. Maybe that says something, but honestly, there's no need for it. That why would he be looking at childhood photos of me unless I'm dead and he's looking for my funeral slideshow? You don't need to be pulling up the memories. That's just like so odd.
To the animators, why include it? Of all the things you chose to include in the anime, why was that one of the things?
Why was that? Why was that? And it's just alluding to, again, like this, they're like,
it's like predatory relationship.
Yes, it's like there's gay stuff, which is wonderful, and then there's like perverted predators who like children, and we keep with all of the imagery of the rubber duckies with the panda bears with the teddy bears, and then the last line the last line of the outro song is pure baby love. Junjou baby love. And it's like at the end of every episode, there's like a little hidden scene. So I would like fast forward through the outro, and that's the last part of the outro before you get the hidden scene and then the preview. And it is the words pure baby love.
Yep.
So for all of you out there mad at us because we had to give a real honest take on this, explain that to me. Explain it. Explain all the rubber fucking duckies. This is too much for you guys to be like, oh, it's not problematic. It's fine. Everybody is of age. No, it's still problematic because of this constant reminder and seeds that we're planting that there is something weird going on here. There's something like some obsession with youth and innocence that we're not fleshing out totally. That is definitely the monster in the background of this whole story. Is like, is this alluding to an inclination or a deviance that is extremely unwelcome in our spaces when we're talking about romance?
Yeah.
And it keeps pointing to that over and over and over again. So maybe season 2, we finally move away from that. Or maybe in season 2, there's just more teddy bears and everybody acting like babies.
I don't know. It ain't me. I don't know if you're going to ask, but I ain't doing it. You can't make me. There's no bonus episode for season 2. I'm so sorry, everyone. It's not happening. I can't spend another 2 hours roasting something that took me 2 weeks to watch.
Absolutely not. You will. I don't think I could do a second episode on this. There's so much
good BL out now. Like, I understand that when this came out, there wasn't. And this is what the fujoshis had. And I have so much respect for the people who watch this because it really was, like, some of the only media that was able to be consumed. And we always talk about consumption and the way that like consumption leads to consumption. And whether we're talking about like reading the mangas so they get anime adaptations, or we're reading things online so they get written and published and so that they become more accessible. And I understand that consuming this was a necessary evil in order to get to the point in which we are today. But at some point, we have 3 seasons and 2 OVAs of this, but we only have 1 season of Yuri on Ice. And for that, I cannot forgive anyone ever.
Absolutely not. And that's like, that is an excellent point to make, which is just like, why have the fans from this not jumped on other projects and toxic dynamics ever? I understand being loyal to an author. I understand being loyal to characters, because I myself have a bunch of stories where I'm like, you know what, at this point, I'm so invested, I'm going to keep watching forever. But also let's turn our attention to some stories that like really deserve it, because this one is crazy. And I say all of that knowing I am going to watch the 2nd season. I probably can never do another episode on this just because I hate talking about things that I can't fully support, and I like cannot fully support this, whether or not it's why I like can't watch reality TV shows and stuff, because I don't support it. I don't like it. And once in a while I'll watch like Too Hot to Handle came on, and I watched the whole season, and I was like, it's this consumption problem where I'm like, am I eating a whole bag of Oreos at one time, or a whole bag of potato chips, and just making myself sick on trash? And at some point you do need to like turn your eyes to something that's like a little bit more nutritional to you and your soul. And this definitely did not nourish my soul, although it was entertaining, like watching a car accident. At the end of the day, you just watched a bunch of people in a car accident. What does that say about you? So with all that being said, what was your delusional boyfriend? I bet we have the same one.
Kurosama. Nawasaki Kurosama, yes.
Yep, Nawaki is like the only normal option in this whole thing. He is interested in somebody age appropriate. He has his own hopes, life, and dream. He has made a bunch of friends.
Secret option 2 was Kechisumi, Misaki's friend who kept trying to save him from the predator. Also a good solid option.
Okay, and also I forgot who my real delusional boyfriend was from this, which is the creepy fujoshi editor
Oh my
who is
god.
constantly walking in on them and like bringing them treats.
Oh
I
my
love her. She's
god.
so problematic and she's brutal. She every time Akihiko is late, she's like throttling him, gonna kill him. She is really serious about her work. And when Misaki's like, why BL? Don't you think that's kind of like, if you're so good at editing and you already edited other books, why would you do BL? And she's like, because I love BL. It's not lesser than I love it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, so she is us.
Yeah.
And I love her. And absolutely, I would bang her. She's got hot tits, great haircut,
Mhm.
and a great job. She is really busy babysitting Akihiko all the time, which is kind of a turnoff. Other than that, love her.
Not scared to throttle a man too. She's like, oh, you're not responding to me? I'm gonna show up to your house and I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. Like, I'm gonna do what I gotta do to do my job.
Like,
and you're gonna do yours.
And he's like sick. She's like throttling like a half dead man, and she's like, "You will finish the fucking manuscript."
Yeah.
And then when it comes to the BL, she's like, dirtier, make it dirtier, make it. And I'm like, okay, actually, I can relate to this character more than I can relate to anybody else in the story. With our delusional boyfriend picks out of the way, I think we can both confidently say nobody in this series outranks any of our number one delusional boyfriends. We would both probably date Nawaki like IRL because he's a green flag.
Yes.
So fine, we would. If he was a real life person, he would still be greenlit.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Val, for subjecting yourself to this. I know that I told you this would be easier if you were on your pain pills, and I can see that not even that could curb the pain of this series.
No. Yes.
I hope that you guys will all join us. Thank you so much for listening. If you are listening to the BL anime episodes, we're also releasing on Thursdays. I also release BL manhwa and BL live action. And then me and my other girlfriends do a romance novel. And that's not always BL or MM. It ranges between wide choose and straight stuff and gay stuff. So join us on Thursdays for those. And if you're interested in anime and you love gay ships, my husband and I are going through the manga One Piece, and we are shipping all of those characters and connecting all the dots there, since I watched the anime a while ago and wanted to go back to the original source material. So if you want to hear my husband on more episodes, check those out on Tuesdays. If you want to hear Val, she's on every single BL anime episode. And if you want to check Val's podcast and YouTube channel out and her TikTok and her Instagram, you can find her at, what are all your handles?
I'm at Girls Gays Animes, no spaces on all platforms except for Twitch, which I'm Girls Games, GAYMES on Twitch for some LGBTQ plus playthroughs occasionally.
Yay. And if you guys haven't already, make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe, and turn on auto downloads if you're on the podcast apps. That just makes sure that any bonus content that we do is delivered directly to your library and you don't miss out on that. If you want to check me out on social media to stay in the loop on whatever I'm currently reacting to, it's Delusional BF Book Club or Delusional Boyfriend Book Club everywhere. That's YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and then there's also a blog if you want to go check out and find this calendar. It's right there on the blog. If you leave your email, I will just go ahead and email you one of those. There's like a form submission on the homepage. So if you're looking for all of the titles between manhwa, live action, anime, and novels, you can find it there. Thank you so much for listening. This has been such a fun episode for me, and I can't wait for the next one. So until our next read, remember, sometimes the delusion
is the solution.